Welcome back to the Mind Over Mic podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to tell you about a couple quick shows I have coming up. On Friday, October the 24th, I'm going to be at the Blue Ridge Comedy Club in Bristol, Tennessee. That is a charity event to support the Junior League of Bristol. So come out and support that show. Myself and several other talented comedians will be on the lineup, donating their time for a worthy cause. Please come out and support. On the 25th of October, that's a Saturday, the 25th, we've got our next Don't Tell Tri-Cities show. That is going to be in downtown Johnson City, Tennessee. We're back to one of our all-time favorite venues in downtown Johnson City, and we've got a returning headliner who's not been with us in a little over a year, so we're very excited to see his return. I've also got a stacked lineup of features coming all the way from Nashville for the show. This is going to be a good one, folks. Lastly, I want to go ahead and promote that on November the 15th, I've got a big show for Don't Tell Tri-Cities. We are partnering with Tennessee Hills Distillery here in Bristol, Tennessee for a very special show. That's going to be a huge show, big headliner, fun times, big laughs. Come out and support that one on November 15th. That's also my birthday, so if you're not there, I will take it personal. Today's guest is a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 25 years of experience as a clinical supervisor in the field. He is a former tenured professor from East Tennessee State University, where he contributed to a number of different published works in the psychology space. Several of those topics include the trauma-based physiological approach to therapy, traumatic early reflections, and internal family systems. He holds a Bachelor of Arts from St. Andrew's Presbyterian College, a Master's in Human Development and Psychological Counseling from Appalachian State University, and a PhD in Marriage and Family Counseling from the Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University. Dr. Disque is an avid pickleball player, which he refers to several times throughout the episode, and we discuss a wide range of topics, including his own upbringing and what led him to choosing his career path, or possibly the career path choosing him. We also talk about the academic and university structure that he experienced during his time as a tenured professor. We also kind of evaluate the concept of curriculum versus learning, which is something that he's very passionate and knowledgeable about. I also spent most of the episode drawing comparisons from his own field of psychology to the world of stand-up comedy. Believe it or not, there's quite a bit of overlap there. We found some mutual ground many times on the comparison, and there's a quote that really stuck out to me in this episode where he says that he believes therapy is an improvisational act. And so from his point of view, we're able to make that bridge and connect the world of comedy and psychology. And this was a real treat for me. I'm very grateful for the time that Dr. Disque has donated to come and speak with me. I'm sure that you all are going to enjoy the episode as well. So let's go ahead and jump into today's episode of the Mind Over Mic podcast with one of the most brilliant men I've ever had the pleasure of sitting down with, Dr. Graham Disque. I have just had such random guests on that I'm very excited. I like the uniqueness of each episode. Yeah. I've really grown to love it. But you're actually, you're an example of pretty much since I started this art form, if you want to call it that, of podcasting. Yeah. I've talked to Mom about you. I think just to have you on is very intriguing to me because I think that you have this well of knowledge that I'm so curious in that I don't really have, aside from my mother, who obviously has a lot of knowledge in the department. I don't have a lot of access, and I think a lot of folks maybe don't.
Okay.
I don't know if you feel that way as well, but providing that information to others is something I'm very interested in.
Yeah. It's certainly something that I've been interested in for a really long time. Even though I'm retired now, it's still... I'm just fascinated by human experience and human relationships,
right?
And human patterns. And once you get interested in that, you can just see it everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether it's on the pickleball court or I love watching like documentaries of people and just being fascinated by their lives and how they've gone the way that they've gone. So I've not lost any interest in that, but not so much in the professional realm of. I still see a few clients and things, but like I was saying, I'm not trying to maintain that so much.
Sure. Yeah. Well, how could you not remain interested in the human condition, so to speak, because you're still alive and you're still experiencing it as well.
Yeah. But surprisingly, I think not everyone is, especially I remember teaching, like there's a funny thing about people that go into the profession of counseling, they're not always curious. They more are driven by wanting to be helpful.
Right.
And there's a big difference between trying to be helpful and just being curious.
Sure. Yeah. So coming at it from a place of sometimes even ignorance, I think,
absolutely
is a great approach. Yeah.
And that it's a funny thing because education's almost trying to take your ignorance away from you and make you feel like you know something.
Right.
But really, I think, especially as a counselor in a lot of things, your greatest gift is your ignorance or your willingness to be ignorant.
To learn.
Yeah. Because it's, if you can't, like that old Zen saying, you can't pour water in a full cup.
Right.
So if you're not willing to be ignorant, there's not a lot of room for curiosity and not knowing.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the things I had mentioned to you just via text as well is that relationship between stand-up comedy and psychology. And I think because my mom is a psychologist and I'm a stand-up, we find ourselves in that conversation pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Some of the crossover amazes me. Some of it does not. Some of it makes perfect sense. But that same approach from ignorance is something that I really value in the comedians I love as well. And like, I don't really know much about this, but are you all seeing this? Are we all seeing this collectively? That kind of blissful unawareness is important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I like the correlation there as well. And I think one thing that she and I talk pretty often about is that more often than not, a lot of comedy does come from a space of mental health or even trauma, and finding the humor in that. And I know that that's something that makes its way into certain folks' approach to psychology as well.
Yeah. I woke up this morning just thinking about that I was going to meet with you today, and then I found myself, I've always absolutely admired the courage that it must take to stand up in front of people and tell jokes.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what you're going to get.
Courage, delusion, it's maybe both.
I mean, you'd have to have some of both of those things or you probably wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we end up, this is certainly true in my case, that sometimes a profession finds you because it kind of matches how you found your way through the world.
Yes, exactly.
And then it also keeps offering you a way to grow and learn and and
challenge.
So I would think if a comedian isn't willing to be questioning their funniness or what makes people laugh or and then the one that really hit me this morning was the great thing about because I like to use humor a lot when I'm working with clients is that's that willingness to not take yourself so seriously is when you can laugh at yourself. And
absolutely.
And comedians are inviting us to look at how funny it is to be a human being.
Yeah.
And I mean, some of my favorite comedians, that's what they're doing. It's like, look at us as human beings, and aren't we just absolutely hilarious with all the antics that we go through to try to be in charge or have power or to win or love or just all the crazy things that we do. And it's just really funny if you just step back and see it instead of being caught in it.
It is. And I think I suffer from that in a big way because being so involved in the industry as opposed to the art, it does at times remove a piece of that magic and that profound love and relationship that I have with it. But you mentioned that, sometimes the industry or the profession will find you. And I think that hits me in a big way. I've mentioned on the show before, but I felt very strongly when I found this thing that I've kind of been this thing all along.
Yes.
I maybe wasn't a professional comedian,
right.
but the ability to intake trauma and produce humor is kind of just become my default in my life. So it only just stands to reason that led itself to comedy. Yeah. And you mentioned that's a similar thing for you in psychology as well, that you kind of life led you in that direction.
I think so. If I look back, a lot of it just happened to be the circumstances of things of my life. And I started reading, like I had a subscription to Psychology Today when I was 16. I started like reading books on family therapy.
Really? At 16?
Yeah. At that
18, point, are you considering it professionally, or it's just an interest?
Just an interest.
Yeah.
When I went to college, I thought, oh, yeah, I really like psychology, because I was just reading those things, but I was fascinated by it. But I took a course in psychology and just absolutely hated it, because it's like, oh, now I have to read some textbook that I don't even like, take some multiple choice thing on it.
Right.
And I have no interest in this at all.
As a curriculum. Per se, like, and I agree. I think that
it just killed any interest I had in psychology. Exactly, they just absolutely squashed it.
Yes, I akin that almost to the art classes that I took in high school and college, where I go, oh man, I think I don't like art anymore because the class just sucks the creativity out of it. Yeah.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because it was actually the opposite. I was ready to drop out of school and out of college, and I said, well, I've never done anything with art in my life. Like, I've never done a painting, I've never drawn, don't think of myself as having any art ability at all. No interest in it, obviously, as a career. And I said, well, if I'm going to leave college, I might as well take an art class before I go, because I'm not coming back next year. I take an art class, and it was so much fun.
Really?
And I was just exploring what I was doing. Yeah. The other art majors, they were thinking, how am I going to have a career in art? I had no interest in a career in art. So I'm just there, like, having fun. And then it was like, so I can come down here and play around. And as long as I'm doing something, I get graded, I pass it. I don't have to write papers. I don't have to take a test. But I would spend hours and hours on my projects and loved it. I'd be there 2 a.m, working on something.
Sure.
But I also loved, I'm sitting around the table with other people, and it's like, what are you trying to express? What's important to you? Oh, that's creative. And it's like, oh, try this, try that. It's like experiment. And I became an art major with no art talent.
Really?
No intent of ever having a career in art. And I would have probably pretty much not gone back to college and ever had a career that ended up going the way that it
If not
did.
for art.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it went the opposite for you. You went in wanting art. So it just, that's what I mean. It's like it can find you in just these weird ways. And then the other thing, I just wanted to finish up that other part, that my mom was 41 when I was born. My dad was 40. My siblings were older. And I was just, I think, really involved in watching and observing my parents' relationship.
Okay, right.
And I think I just got fascinated by that, and families and couples. And
I see.
Like, when I was going into kindergarten, my older sisters who were twins, were going off to college. So just family dynamics and things. Right. Most of my friends, they were in kind of families that were different than mine.
More traditional, maybe?
Yeah, more traditional. Sure. Their parents were different ages, or their ages between siblings. And so I just got, like, fascinated when I would go and be with other people, how different their families were. And so that was just, circumstance that got me fascinated by that.
Wow. I think that's one of what will probably be a billion through this episode of other correlations between your path and mine, is that same awareness of how maybe we'll say unorthodox my own family dynamic became, made me
Yeah, yours in reverse of mine.
Exactly.
I had older parents, and you, yes.
I had much younger. Yeah. I had a father who was in and out and very disconnected. And then even in my social circles, I think I wasn't your traditional kid for a lot of it. And that made me at times envious of friends and their, I know my best friend growing up, his dad was just by all accounts the perfect father, from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
And I remember being very envious of that. And if nothing else, it kind of woke me up to just how unorthodox mine was.
Yeah.
But questions like that led me to a road of satire in that I'm able to take my experience and go, isn't this odd?
Yes.
Isn't this bizarre?
Yeah.
And it kind of developed this almost psychosis of really analyzing the world and questioning everything in such a unique way, which is stand-up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes I have a little of this. I think when people feel different in comparison, that one of the ways to cope with that is to be able to laugh about it, make fun of it.
Bingo.
Yeah. And then it's how you get through.
Yes.
And then you also don't feel as different as other people when you can say something and they laugh at it.
Yes.
Because a lot of why people are laughing is that you're saying something that's a truth.
Yeah.
But maybe they haven't wanted to look at it or feel it, and
Absolutely.
You're giving them that safe way to touch it.
Absolutely.
Without being overwhelmed by it. And
yes.
Yeah,
I think in a lot of cases for me, it does become a bridge to new folks, and that music and comedy, I would say, are two that I've become pretty proficient at establishing. Even for this show, one of the first items to do is to select an album, and partially that's I want the guest to be reflected on the wall. I want you to feel comfortable in the space, but part of it too is that tells me something about that person. Just a little something, and I have some direction. The bridge also I find you become sort of a mirror for others in the family dynamic as well. I have become sort of we'll say class clown of the family group, to where not only am I now using levity on myself, I'm also kind of a key role in this dynamic. I've found a lot of times in difficult family moments and things that's a fine line to walk, but providing some levity in those moments is very important to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because I noticed this so much over the years doing family therapy, that people go through life thinking that, like maybe they picked what they do or they're in charge of who they are. And when you start to see families, it's like, did you pick it or did it pick you?
Yeah.
And that there's the power of the system or the group that you're in.
Right.
And just like a football team or a basketball team, they need people to play different positions. So
exactly.
Who's going to be the center? Who's going to be the guard? Who's going to be the quarterback? And so families will have a need for someone to play a particular role.
Right.
And so there's people who never picked that role, but they got developed in that role. And then other people started supporting it and added to the maintenance of that role,
reinforcing that.
And then the next thing somebody looks and it's like, oh, I've been doing this for 50 years, but I never did pick it.
Yeah. I relate to that too. I mean, I feel like so far we're just talking about me, honestly.
Well,
because of our mutual connection, and maybe I should establish that as well. But because of our mutual connection, I have no hesitation in speaking to you about my relationship with my mother, because that's our mutual contact. And I think in a lot of ways, growing up, I was the joy in her life, and I think that was maybe a subconscious pressure. I don't think she was ever saying, dance monkey, make me laugh.
Right.
But I did feel a sense of that, and that she's young and she's going through these obstacles in life, and so here I am doing this little puppet show to make her laugh. And now I do it for strangers.
Yeah.
I relate in a big way.
If I'm making this too much about you, you can tell.
No, not at all.
But it's when I was saying, okay, I'm reading books on family therapy and marriage stuff, and I'm starting, but it's because I'm watching my parents, and it felt like something was missing in their connection, and I'm watching them struggle, and so, and like I'm like trying to get them to hug more, and so it's a lot of that stuff that ended up being a career thing.
Right.
Goes back to a role that, and it's not that they were asking me to do it or anything.
Yeah.
But you just like if you have two distant parents. people can fall into a role of like, oh, let me see what I can do to get them to connect.
Bring them together. Sure.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, that's what you're doing for a living.
Yeah, and I think, I use the mom example because that was most prevalent and day-to-day in my life. But on the flip side, when I would spend time with my father, who at periods was around very regularly, my two avenues of connection with him were music and comedy. And those two have become essentially the pillars of my life. So, and to this day, occasionally at family events on that side, I'll be in a room with him, and we almost immediately slip into one or the other. It's like that is the bridge for us.
That's your language.
That's the language. Yeah. And so I spoke that language as a kid. I also think, you mentioned the family aspect and the dynamic there. I think a lot of times I like to use the word tribal when I'm discussing this with folks, and I think at the risk of repeating information I say all the time, there's a concept in a native culture called the heyoka. I don't know if you're familiar with this at all. It's been adopted now by sort of a new age empath type mindset, but traditionally it translates to sacred clown, and this person's role in the tribe was to hold up a mirror to society and to kind of satire and poke fun, and they were viewed as important as the chief or the medicine man or anything. And I think that some of us still feel a little sense of that in our soul.
And the nice thing about that kind of thing is it's not like the role of the chief is more important than the role of, in the Native American place where I've seen that, they call it the trickster.
Yes.
And, so it's not like one role.
Right.
Any more than every position in a sports team. It's like one person doesn't block their person, the quarterback.
It takes a team.
Yes, and it's like this team, but I think we tend to think a little more hierarchical. And then finances contribute to people. Oh, they make this much salary, they must be more important or whatever. But
I find that in comedy a lot as well. I mean, especially now that we're in sort of a boom phase for stand-up as well, which it ebbs and flows like everything. But at the moment, I think it's so industry present, and so there's so many lights shining on the industry of stand-up. At times it does become a bit of a competition as well to outdo each other. But I think anyone who I really respect in the art form has this deep, again, to use the word, maybe tribal understanding of what we're actually here to do. I was just discussing this morning with a friend on the show, certain comics that take more of a political or a topical approach. And then typically there are examples that go against this, but more often than not, anyone who does not and reverts more to these evergreen silliness, I tend to align more with that, and I tend to find that is more maybe honest to what our place in society is, as opposed to many of that political discussion type comic just wants the spotlight or the clicks or the relevance. Whereas you and I were talking before of Bob Newhart, there's nothing political in that. You can scope his whole discography, and 90% of his humor was just his facial expression. That's impossible to do around politics or current events.
Also, as you're saying that, because I tend to think of everything as having its opposite. I think when you have in world politics, one of the things that fascists and dictators have always wanted to do is try to control comedy and art. Because people are inevitably still going to want to look at art, and they're going to want to go to comedy, especially when times are difficult. They're drawn to it.
It's a great time.
Even more when they feel pain, they want to go to comedy. But if you have a comic who is political, people who are politically in charge. So I'm so grateful that comedy and art, and which isn't to say that I need comics to even, but I'm glad that some comics do that. And to the point that they're even making people comfortable or a little, because they're not going to be silent. So again, a comic can be playing the role of making people feel good when they're not feeling good and realize the happiness and connection. But it could also be a comic who's playing the role of, I'm not going to be silent, and there's stuff going on that somebody needs to be able to say something about it without getting thrown in jail or being too scared of it. So absolutely. Yeah.
And I think we're living in a time now where we're seeing that kind of question analyzed a lot. I mean, just in the last week or so with the whole Jimmy Kimmel situation,
it really is.
It's very topical to kind of test that line and see exactly what is the government or big industry's control over your comedic voice. It's an interesting time, but I think to flip it more to the psychology side, do you find ever that a government or political influence impacts your work directly? I'm sure over your career, maybe that has changed throughout, but I assume maybe censorship doesn't play quite as big of a role.
I think, so I will say, like academically, I was surprised at how much the academic world gets connected to the politics of like state licensure and accreditation.
Sure.
And so if they're going to have, which they all do now, have a license, they have to decide, well, how are we going to test people? And then they decide what books are we going to use to draw on the tests. And the next thing you know, people are teaching to the tests so faculty don't have the same kind of freedom, perhaps, to just go in and use the kinds of books that they want to do. And I was quite surprised by how, as an industry, there's maybe a dozen authors writing textbooks, and you might have hundreds of counseling programs, master's programs, and they're all using the same darn books, and it starts feeling like, well, what are we, a McDonald's franchise?
12 point of views, right?
Yeah, because it's like everyone's taking these, and they copy each other's tests, and then so I never knew that when I got into academia that there was going to be the politics of accreditation agencies. So, for example, like at ETSU, you can get a degree in counseling, you can get a degree in psychology, you can get a degree in social work. And then, like, somebody said, well, why are we wasting all our money? Aren't you all pretty much doing the same thing?
Yeah.
And the faculty were like, yeah, we kind of are, but we have these different affiliations, and we're not allowed to let somebody with a family therapy degree teach a social work course,
I see.
And so then there's all of this like
fine
boundary issues and I think most people just like don't realize how politics, like professional politics and accreditation, is influencing just how people get influenced in what they come into contact with.
Yeah. Is that unique or maybe even just amplified in the psychology realm, or do you think that's maybe just academia as a whole, as far as the red tape and the hoops to jump through and the politicalization of it?
I don't know enough about the other ones, but I would think like in other departments, I don't know that there's like so many competing. Because really. Because you can get your license in social work, marriage and family therapy, counseling, pastoral counseling. So it's like there's psychology, all these different. So it's almost like there's 5, 6, 7 organizations that are. If you just looked at it and you didn't know, you'd say, well, they're all kind of doing the same thing.
Right.
And so, and maybe I'm just more sensitive to it. Maybe it is in other fields, but I just don't imagine like the math departments are fighting over, do you teach geometry or you're teaching it this or teaching it this way? It's like, no, you're in the math department.
Yes.
We don't need to have a separate geometry department.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, it kind of made me think back on my time at ETSU as well, because I graduated in 22 from the digital media program.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful department. What they've managed to do really since my joining the department to now has just, I think it's a totally different landscape than when I was there. Yeah. But while there, it became pretty reputable. I think my graduating year, we were considered the #1 animation program in the South. They really did great work. But they've split that department into 4 concentrations. So you have game design, concept art or visualization, special effects, and animation.
Yeah.
again, from the outside looking in, we're all creative. We're all staring at a computer for 25 hours a day. But to be on the inside and see that separation, unlike what you mentioned, though, I think that in a big way it felt like the Wild West to us, and that many of my professors were animators who just took the paycheck to come and teach us. One of my mentors was an animator at Pixar and worked on Toy Story 3. He went on to work at Industrial Light and Magic for 10 years and all these things. He's not your traditional academic professor.
Right.
And bringing that perspective and that background to the department made it very special for us. I think we were all pretty aware of just how special it was. And do you think that's similar in your department as well, of these folks who maybe don't have a strict background in just academia?
It's funny. I was just talking about this with my daughter the other night. And again, this is something that maybe a lot of people wouldn't think of. So I get a PhD in marriage and family therapy, and they need someone to come to ETSU and teach that.
Yeah.
And I've never taught a class in my life.
Okay. All right.
And so I think people just think, so you're really getting hired to do something you've never done.
Yeah. Right.
So teaching is a very different thing.
Sure.
Than like being a therapist.
Yeah.
It's like someone who's a player doesn't mean they're going to be a good coach.
Right.
Or vice versa. So the academic world is a very funny place that a lot of people get hired into academic positions to teach.
Yes.
And may not even love teaching. It's just they love doing the thing that they love, and then they just happen to also be teaching.
Yeah. I think that was the case for a lot of my folks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And And people want to go to a school with a big reputation. The more you go to a school with a big reputation, you're even going to have less, because those people are writing books, they're getting giant grants. They don't want to be wasting their time sitting in their office talking to students. And
for the art or for the craft. Yeah.
So it's funny. I mean, most people would want to pick the school with the bigger reputation, but if you're really wanting to spend more time with faculty, you're probably better off in a medium or smaller size school, and you're going to probably have people, because they're going to get paid less teaching in those things, who are doing it because that's what they love, the teaching part of it. But but it's a double-edged sword, because also you want, at least in my profession, you want people who, or I did, I always preferred the teachers who still had a caseload, were still seeing clients, were still actively engaged in the doing. So like when you said, this guy's working on these things, you don't want someone who's just still not engaged and doing current stuff and realizing, just because it's in the book, it's different than being able to do it, and can I do it?
Absolutely. And having that contemporary knowledge, because that industry, much like psychology, stand-up, and honestly, because it's so technology based, I think that
more so.
It expands at such a crazy rate. Honestly, if I could go back now and sit in on a classroom, I probably wouldn't even recognize the curriculum, and it's been 3 years. But to your point, I had one class that I took that was an advanced character modeling class, and the teacher was zooming in from Seattle every day. He got up at like 5 o'clock to zoom in for our 8 from Seattle, and he was an active character modeler on a big name video game franchise. So at night he was working for one of the largest gaming studios in the country, and during the morning he was teaching us. And having that quite literal, immediate, contemporary information was so valuable to us. So valuable.
So is actually the opposite in my profession, sadly. That I remember there was a day, and so there was this guy named Gerald Corey who writes all these textbooks on counseling. So anybody who goes through a master's program will recognize that name. So I had this, when I went through my master's degree, and like 20 some years later, the guy's his textbook is still out there, and I just picked it up to look and compare it to the ones. He's maybe got 1 or 2 chapters in that textbook that's different than what it was 20 years ago.
Interesting.
Now he's edited the chapter and updated them a little bit.
Sure.
But there's so many. So I would be hard pressed to go out and find therapists who are doing Freudian psychoanalytic stuff,
right?
But they're still putting these same chapters in because they use them for the test.
Yeah.
And it's like the world is moving so fast, and then my profession is
a little behind the times.
It's
maybe?
Like it was painful to just look at like, oh, these same old things are still. Yeah, it'd be like somebody bringing in a floppy disk or something,
right?
And you're like,
"That's ancient. Why are we?" Yeah.
Like,
that's so interesting. Do you think? I know a little about the scientific world and the grant world and things like that. Do you find that a lot of times that maybe that resistance to change or modernization may just be competition for resources? Is it a comfort in the information? Is it ego? Is it any of those things at all?
I think part of what happens is, and this is a big shift from when a lot of those were very humanistic oriented kinds of things when I first got into the profession.
Right.
And it wasn't even counseling was my department was called Human Development and Growth.
Okay.
Yeah, like they had to change the name.
Right.
Because now there's so much pressure to like get licensed and take the licensure thing, and so it became much more pathology oriented and diagnosis, and then it started getting driven by then you get licensed, then you get reimbursed by insurance, and so that brought about a huge kind of change, and where that ties back in with research. The models, they want these evidence-based models that work.
Right.
And they want to be able to prove that they can work, and then they get grants to try to prove that they work. But what that starts to do is it's models that lend themselves to being seen and measured in that way start to stand out, and then those are the ones. So cognitive behavioral therapy, we can measure whether someone did this or
Right.
They're not like, do you feel any shift in your gut? Like they're not going to measure that, so that becomes irrelevant.
Does that almost start to feel to take the humanity out of it in a way? It becomes more statistical than human.
It kind of does. It does to me, and it goes back to, in a way, it's antithetical to the very thing that you and I started talking about of like being a sense of wonder, being in a sense as a therapist of not knowing, and it's inviting you to be expert, and then you're trying to sell the world on your expertise and your wisdom, and then people get mad at the clients because that client just wants me to fix them. Well, why the hell wouldn't they think that? Because you've been advertising that you're going to use this new model that is scientifically proven to work, and you're going to like lay it on them.
Sure. Yeah. You also mentioned one thing that stuck out to me too is the naming of the department at that time. And I think a lot of times my brain takes in information, processes it in the stand-up world, and then spits it out because that's just how that's my ecosystem. George Carlin, you and I also discussed prior to recording the show, and he had a great bit a long time ago about the softening of language and how that sometimes could be an indicator for trajectory in things. The example that he used was shell shock. In World War I, it was shell shock, and then it became battle fatigue, and then post-traumatic stress disorder. Now we're up to 4 words. Do you find that across not only the department and the naming of that, but just the profession in general, how has it, I guess, evolved or been forced to evolve to meet these modern ideas of language and everything from gender norms to societal structure, racism? There's so many things now that I think as a culture we really drill in on, and I'm curious how that's impacted the industry itself.
I think there's a natural thing in us as human beings to some degree want to get better at what we're doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes in getting better, you have to move away from what you're comfortable with and what is similar to something that is different and uncomfortable.
Sure.
And so as we start to shift what we call something, because we're seeing it in a somewhat different way, or we're noticing some of the nuance, we start to try to come up with language that will say something about that nuance or the subtle differences.
To better represent what we're experiencing.
Yes, because the more you study something, like you could probably get into a much more detailed, if I was also a comedian, of just like the nuances of timing and subtlety and stuff. I could appreciate that in different content or understand the process.
Yeah.
But if you're with another comedian, you could start to enter, and then other people wouldn't be able to stay with it.
It's our language.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, I went to go see, I'm forgetting his name now, but this was many years ago, fantastic violin player. I think it was Mark O'Connor, and he played at ETSU, and and he's playing these traditional songs that people are getting up and dancing to, and then he just like let himself go, and he was like into really experimenting. What can I do with this instrument? And suddenly the audience is quiet.
Yeah.
And he finishes the song, and there's nothing. But you could tell he went so deep.
He's lost in it.
He's lost in it.
Yeah.
But it was like there was something beautiful about watching this guy.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily pleasing to my ear.
Exactly.
But
I
was in awe of his like getting sounds coming out of that thing and putting notes together that I would never. And it created some dissonance in me.
Right.
But it made me happy that he had the courage.
Interesting.
To just like go there. And then when he realized that then nobody clapped and it went silent, he went back to playing the stuff that
the hits.
Yeah. But I think Miles Davis went through that kind of thing too.
Of course.
Yeah. And so I think that's the thing. It's like, how do you pay attention to your own integrity, even if it's pushing against the flow?
Right.
Of everything.
Yeah, I think that's music and stand-up have so many parallels as well. But that's reminds me of just last night. I produced a show locally, and we had a great turnout, a sold-out show, a brand new venue, and it was a hot crowd. They say, it was a very fun environment. And a friend of mine who is one of the most talented comedians I've ever worked with, and he's local, and he's just fantastic. I got to put him at what they call the sweet spot just before the headliner, because I know he will just knock it out of the park. And watching him go up to what by that point was a pretty intoxicated, rowdy crowd, watching him go up and do, I would akin it exactly to what you're saying with this violinist of, it's not necessarily these pre-written, perfectly worded, structured, timed out jokes, but watching him adapt to this room and basically improv and freelance in this moment is akin almost to seeing a violinist, and you similar thing where you go, oh, this is clearly something he's doing right now. It's totally improvisational, and there's such an appreciation and in my case, an admiration for this guy, my friend Travis, that, to see that live inspires something in us, I think, at least in my case, to grow in this art form, or even if maybe you're not a violinist yourself, but just to explore your own creativity, maybe. Yes.
And going back to that as the change in the academic world and my profession, and this is just my personal belief about being a counselor, but then I also watched how some of this shifted, is I went and got books on improvisational theater and asked students to practice stuff, because I think being a therapist is an improvisational act. You sit down, you don't know what they're going to say, you don't know what they're going to want.
Yeah.
And so it's a very different mindset. It connects with what we were saying, to just be in a place of not only just fascination and curiosity,
right,
but also there's an improvisational skill,
absolutely,
that in the moment. But if what the academic world is saying, here's the structure, here's what you do, follow this sequence, ask these kinds of questions, here's how you gather information, here's how you come up with a diagnosis, here's how you create a treatment plan, here's how you try to get them to follow the treatment plan. It just starts to lose some of the humanity.
Right. Formulaic, maybe.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so you find musicians, you can put a piece of music in front of them, and they'll sit there and they can be really good at being a member of an orchestra and doing that, and maybe paying attention to the conductor and da-da-da. But if you take those people music away from them and say, okay, here's 50 of you, let's improv, let's
jam.
see what's happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember going over to Asheville. I don't know if you ever, I think they still do it, but they had these like amazing, huge drum circles downtown.
Really?
Yeah. And there'd be like 100 people in there, and little kids, grandparents, old people, people were some beating on water bottles, and some people had big fancy drum sets that they brought in. And that thing would start. Somebody would start it, the rhythm would change, the tempo would change, and the thing would come to an end. And nobody was leading it.
Right. Interesting.
It's just this organic, coming together.
Yeah.
And something happened. It was like...
Music is special in that way. And I think in that way, it is so different from stand-up, in that stand-up is very singular. You know, it's kind of me against them. Whereas music is... It's collaborative, and it's at times maybe more improvisational than stand-up. Stand-up tends to have the flip. You know, you go from that formulaic, here's this joke I wrote, to a bottle just broke, I have to react to that.
Or you get some heckler.
Right.
That's when you need improv.
Crowd work, absolutely. Oh, yeah. And boy, does it happen, especially in a crowd like last night.
Yeah. And I would think that your audience changes. You know, you tell the same joke in church, and as you do to a bunch of drunk people, you don't get the same response. Same joke, you may have told it the same. Yeah. So the context absolutely matters. And
geographical as well, I've noticed. Yeah.
So as a therapist, if people are just going into like, I'm going to be the same with all these clients. And it can be a problem when you do something and it really works. The problem is you want to try to repeat it.
Right.
Which that's fine to a point.
Yeah.
But then if you start like leaning into it, and it's like, so maybe that's because we do that with medicine. You know, it's like, oh, you're this age or you're this gender. It doesn't matter. I'm giving you the same thing. Oh, you weigh 350, you weigh 130. I'm giving you the same. Yeah. So it's that.
That's very, and you know, I think I'm very open on the show about my own relationship with therapy and being involved there. In fact, my therapist is a former pupil of yours who I adore and worship, and I'll cut around this. It's Eric.
Okay.
I'll remove his name from the episode just so we're not, putting him on blast or anything. Yeah. But he has been.
Well, he might want the because he might.
That's true.
He might get some business out of it.
That's true. Maybe I'll leave it in. He has been, in a professional sense, he is essentially redefining his approach to therapy.
That's you should.
Right.
If you're not redefining your bit a number of times, you're in trouble.
Yes, and that approach as a client of his from that aspect has been so invigorating to me. Yeah. In that we've kind of switched up the way we do it, and that's brought all this new insight and also just some new environment and new atmosphere to the sessions. That's been really good for me, actually. Because
isn't that what you're asking the client to have the courage to do?
Exactly.
So it's kind of out of balance if I'm going to ask you to change, but I'm going to...
Right. We're going to sit in the same office and do the same 5 questions. Yeah. And I've had 4 separate therapists in my time with therapy, about 7 years. I've had 4 different ones. But he stands out to me in that he is very good at reacting to things in the moment. At times he maybe has even said that he's been a little too reactive to things. A little bit of our relationship has grown in a way that professionalism is not always the default. I think he and I are very similar, and in another life could have been basically twins with our mindsets. But he is really great at reacting, and you even mentioned at one point, that to stop and go, what do you feel in your gut right now? And turn it to the physical. He's a professional with that. He does that quite often for me. Yeah. It's very special.
Yes, and that goes back to what we're saying, that these things become popular, and so cognitive therapy became very popular to just ask people questions, and then here's the one that really, really gets left out, and it's kind of easy for people to understand. I could ask you thinking-oriented questions. And so then, that's where our focus is. What do you think about this? That two people can share their thoughts with each other. What are you feeling? Let's say 2 people share. But most people, I don't like that I started out with most people, but it's not infrequent that if you say to somebody, what do you feel? They'll tell you what they think. They'll even say it right away. What do you feel about it? Well, I think. And the think will go in front of it. And so a lot of times you have to really slow somebody down. No, I'm not asking what you think.
I think I'm very guilty of that.
Yeah.
I'm realizing as you're saying.
Yeah. So our culture kind of emphasizes that. And then in therapy, it gets more emphasized. And then cognitive behavioral has had a lot of research on it. And so you have a lot of sessions will orient to thinking. But then, so then you look at, okay, what are feelings? And so you could explore something else, and you may get very different. If I ask you a question about something, I could ask you to tell me what you think about it, what you feel about it. And I could also ask you about sensation, like what's in your body. So, like, let's say you were going to go buy a car. And I said, oh, why are you choosing that car? And if you're a very thinking person, you may say, well, I went online and looked at Consumer Report and read all the information, and this is the best deal. And then you tell me all the reasons that you think that's the best car. Or if you're more of a heart-centered person, emotion-oriented person, I just love the look of it. That car looks so cool. I just love it. I feel so good.
I'm probably more in that department myself.
And then you have somebody who is very sensory motor, and they're like, oh, the ergonomics, the feel, the steering wheel. When I take a turn, it just holds that turn. So they're telling you like the physical sensation that they get from being in it. So really, if you start listening to people tend to have just like a dominance in left or right handed. People people have a dominance for comedy. Some might want a non-political comedy, somebody want very political comedy. So people have a dominance towards where they go. So there's that thinking, that feeling, and then that sensory motor thing. And so when you have a therapist that says, well, let's explore sensory motor. What are you noticing about your breathing? What are you noticing about your chest? What are you noticing? Any body temperature, or and you start having, and then people get like blown away because they hadn't paid attention to what the sensory motor thing was.
I'm guilty of it quite often. At times, one thing that comes up with us quite often is I have certain cities or certain structures, more physical things that give me this kind of it's a trauma character.
You just did it. You see how your hands move.
Wrenching. That's how I describe it in session a lot. Is I feel it down here. I feel it, and a lot of times I won't even quite notice that maybe my posture has shifted almost in a kind of a painful sense, and he will be the first to point it out and go, do you notice that you right now you're literally curled into a ball talking about this restaurant or this city? And I've been with him for sort of a long tail story, but I've been with him for a number of years off and on, and so I think that he has gotten very good at predicting and seeing my patterns. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about as well. Do you think in therapy, is there ever a point where a therapist may develop a relationship that is maybe a little too personal or too connected with the client? Does that ever get in the way? Does that ever take away from the client's own benefit, in that you're starting to? Because in my case, and this is not at all a reflection of mine, I think that he and I relate on so many levels that we have sort of this unspoken connection. But I wonder, does it ever go beyond that to the point where it actually makes the dynamic difficult to navigate?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. And I think I have erred in the a couple of times that I'm aware of, so I've probably done it more than that.
Sure.
Where somebody was feeling a connection with me that I was completely oblivious to.
I see.
So, and I think your mom would attest to this too.
Sure.
So that people start to maybe have a romantic interest or an attraction of some sort, and like often I'm not thinking of myself in that way or thinking of the person in that way, and I'm missing, and then when it pops up, it's like, oh.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's sort of a common example among therapists, right? I maybe more from media and television and stuff, but like an example that comes to mind for me is The Sopranos. I don't know if you've ever consumed the relationship between Tony and Dr. Melfi, and he goes through these ebbs and flows as well. But at one point, he's in love with Dr. Melfi, and she is blindsided by this on her end.
I was totally blindsided. I don't want to give. I'm certainly not going to give any information, but. Like how I knew it was someone left an anonymous card, and then I was like, oh,
Then you start to look around.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh.
The signs were there.
Yeah, and then I do. Sure. And so, that was on me.
Right.
That until that happened, I didn't, so. Sure.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's really good. Like I do supervision with your mom, and I think it's good to have supervision if you can, because you can't always see what's going on.
Right.
And you might have a colleague sit in with you or watch a tape or talk to you about something. And I think she did that. And so did she go to a supervisor?
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's really great to have, I guess maybe you do that in comedy. You share your jokes with your friends, and they're like, dude, you need to change that or give up on that or do something.
Someone I respect.
Absolutely.
Comedy, and I'm sure that psychology has this as well, and really all industries. In our industry, I find that more often than not, folks are very willing to kind of just regurgitate what information has helped them. At times, you receive advice from folks who really aren't in a position to give it. That's kind of the norm in the industry. What happened in my case is that you reach a point where you start to learn what you can take from others and grow. And some people have some information to offer, and then 90% of it you need to tune out. But I found my people. I found my guys that I turn to them with questions, and they have what I need. That tends to be how it plays out in my world. Yeah. Well, you mentioned too that the relationship with mom, and I kind of do. I'm interested to know your perspective of it, because she openly has one of the worst memories in the history of humanity. She just she has no recollection of a lot of things.
I would never have known that.
She has. It's bad.
Well, I've heard her say that, but if she didn't tell me that, I like.
Sometimes I question what's selective. What's not. I do at times question.
Yeah, so I'm not disagreeing with her. Right. It's just like I wouldn't have known that.
Yes,
because because she's engaging.
Right.
And so I haven't really had to put that to the test.
She has a very specific relationship with her memory. She has these blackout periods and these chunks and things and ages. I think we all do.
Yes.
But from my perspective, I can recall as I'm a kid and she is going back to school after becoming a teen mom and really trying to navigate that. She starts pursuing a psychology degree. And I personally remember times when I would sit in your office or other classrooms and things while she is there for meetings. I remember being in the library, in the room while she's having these team activities and building these projects and things. And I think growing up in that environment, of which you were very involved, made me so curious about it in a way that I never became a psychologist, but the correlation between stand-up and that. And then, cut to now I'm at ETSU and I get to experience your impact on the community there and things. I mean, through that timeline, do you look back on your time at ETSU with any specific takeaways? Is there any, obviously there's a lot of achievement and pride as well, and probably pitfalls and mistakes. But just as an overall time period there, what is kind of your take on that part of your life?
That's a lot. That's a
big question.
A lot to. I think it went through so many different phases.
Yeah.
So when I first came in, I was just so excited to get going and implement new ideas and possibilities and things that, so I was very active in suggesting and creating new courses and program changes and design. And then at the end of my career, I got to be on the other end, and then I got to see all the other people coming in with all of their ideas and wanting to change everything, and I didn't have an appreciation for them.
So you had some apprehension to these new kids coming in, changing the game a little?
Yeah, and I think they probably did when I came in too.
Absolutely.
It's like, well, we've been here for 20 years. Who's this guy? I think he is, Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it's like the young kids telling the grandparents and what to do kind of thing.
Right.
I just remember I just felt very lucky that I was getting to do something that I loved doing and getting paid for it, basically, was just kind of crazy.
Being passionate about your job is huge for folks.
If I'd won the lottery, I would have just kept doing it. I mean, there was there was no question about that.
That's a beautiful way of phrasing it too, because I think, and I suffer from, I love this show. I love stand-up. I love the creative outlets I've developed. But I still have a 9-to-5, and I still am chained to a cubicle for 40 hours a week. And so while I am creative in my job, I'm a graphic designer. So while I'm creative in my job and I have a degree there and I love it, it's not exactly where my passion has wound up. And I think most people relate more to that, in that, yes, I'm sacrificing a piece of myself. And to be honest with you, if I hit the lottery, I can't sit here and tell you I would stay at the job I'm at. Not at all.
Yeah, I think I just got so lucky that like if somebody came to you and said, we're going to pay you to do, stand-up, I don't know, 12 hours a week of stand-up or something. Because when you're teaching, you maybe you're doing like that many hours actual being in the classroom. There's all the prep and everything else that goes into it. But if somebody say, we're going to pay you a salary and we're going to give you health benefits, and then and then you're going to retire on a pension,
I'll take it.
And just do that's what I felt like. I was like, where
let's get the word out there. If anyone wants to pay, I'll take it. Yeah. That's so special.
It really is.
And so do you think you had that awareness in real time, or is that only hindsight?
No, I had it. No, totally. I totally had it in real time. Of like, I have all the benefits of this, and then you get tenure, and then that has a whole nother level of kind of feeling safe. So I had like this. I still got to like do my own thing. It wasn't somebody telling me, okay, go out and tell these jokes.
Right.
I'm still writing my own material and doing my own thing. More so in the beginning. It started changing at the end when these curriculums started being more driven by licensure and all that kind of stuff.
I see.
But it's like, I got the best of both worlds. I'm like working independently, but then I have all this security for doing it. So it was just like this ideal world for me.
Oh, I can imagine the sort of sense of freedom in that. Like I really, and I try to impart that on from the producer angle. Like just last night when I have 5 comedians who are on my show, and they've driven from Asheville and Raleigh and Nashville and Atlanta and all these places. What I tell them pretty often, especially if I know them and I have this rapport, I'll go, hey, like, listen, you can't get fired tonight.
Right.
You're going to come back for another show no matter what you do. So why don't you just go up there and have some fun? And I think that freedom that it provides to them allows such a beautiful performance.
And like you were saying before, everything has both sides to it. So you get somebody who has the freedom of that and the academic freedom of it and tenure. They can push into new creative areas because they feel safe to do it. They can challenge aspects of it and go, this is crazy that we're using the same textbooks. I'm not using those. Like, I never used textbooks at all. And near the end of my career, I was pretty much right from the beginning, but definitely I got more pushback at the end. But I just didn't give people like tests and stuff. I just had people like write up and see what kind of what kind of grade do you think you should have. I put out some work here for you to do, and we're going to come and we're going to discuss these things. But you know what you got out of it, what you didn't get out of it, how much you put yourself into it, and write up what you think your grade should be, and and
I can see that creating some pushback.
But I was able to get away with it. And I think if I didn't have tenure now, I had students come back and say, I worked harder in your class when I knew that you weren't going to grade me than the ones where they were grading me.
Exactly.
And then they said, and then I found myself having to make a choice between spending time on something I didn't even like or spending time on something that I would have preferred to do in your class. And so it really prepared me for what is going to happen when someone's not looking over my shoulder. And, it puts you in that real life dilemma of, do I follow my own passion or do I do, and there's a mix of that you have to do. So like you're like, do I give up my day job or not give up my day job? It's not the same, but sort of like, do I study the stuff? And that was part of my problem in my doctoral program. Is just like, I could go over to the library and next thing you know, I'm 4 hours deep into something that's like, oh crap, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing to get ready for this test, because I happened to read something in some book and then I couldn't stop.
Right,
and
rabbit hole. Yeah.
But that's, how do you find your... Sure. So when you give people freedom, and more, I started to find that people's syllabi got longer and longer and more, and it just like took it away from people to have to struggle with that and just say, look, here's the steps, and if you don't do all the steps.
Right. Less structure, maybe. And to be honest with you, that really resonates with me, because I'm a person who has a problem with not necessarily authority, but structure. I think going against the grain, against the mold, is something that I've always kind of identified with. It's different. You could throw out punk rock, rebellious nature, all these terms. But for you as the kind of seniority there, to provide that freedom and that option for students, I can imagine they really gravitated to that. Some.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is, when are you going to make without practice? Like, little kids can't self-regulate. So the adults have to regulate for them. And so they say, okay, here's some structure, and then as they get older, you have a little less structure. But the big goal is, you're hoping, maybe, if you're lucky, by the time they're 18, maybe 25, whatever, that they've learned how to self-regulate.
Yeah.
But if you've always provided structure, they don't learn how to self-regulate. And so if learning just becomes this thing of obedience, rather than learning how to self-regulate your own interests and your own passion. So I'm not against structure. It's at what point is the structure supporting someone in their self-regulation?
Exactly.
Or at what point is it just a crutch for them to avoid learning their own self-regulation, because it's just easier to be obedient. And it's pretty good. A lot of times you can go far and you can get a PhD, and just what you're really good at is being obedient.
Right. Yeah, and in a way you're stifling the, I guess, sort of the creativity or the ignorant approach that we were talking about in the beginning of. That's so interesting. And I think that psychology, at least from my experience, and it does attract or reinforce people who think a little more outside of the box in that way. I know just from growing up in the house that I did, that some of my mom's inspirations and voices that she, including yourself, really reinforced that idea of find your own way, find your own method within the structure of what it is we're here to do. Yeah. That's very special as well. Yeah. And I know that even since, post grad for her, that you in particular have been this voice of advice, or just, I would maybe say, guidance at times, and also just an ear to listen to. And I know that you mentioned earlier that, a lot of times you're not aware of the relationship that folks have with you. And I think we all suffer from that, myself included. But I can tell you from my perspective that there's maybe not a person who is more influential and more important on just that human level to my own mother than yourself. And that she's been on the show as well, so feel free, if you're listening, to go back and check out that episode. And she was pretty vulnerable and open about her struggles with her father and her family dynamics, her relationship, navigating that, the step family that we entered into at a certain point, all these things. And so I think amidst all of that chaos and turmoil and struggle, you and others have been sort of a constant, if nothing else, just a voice in the distance of we're here. And I think I can only imagine the amount of students that feel that for you, that you're totally unaware of. I'm sure it's in the dozens, if not hundreds, over the years.
Yeah, maybe, because somebody did something very nice for me when I retired, and they just put out a thing and said, if any of you want to, he's getting ready to retire, and if any of you want to send in something, go to the site, and you can do like a little video chat thing. And I was absolutely blown away, overwhelmed by how many people and the things that they said. That was just like, I don't...
Are you able to internalize those things when they're said to you?
I mostly just cry when I first, when I'm taking it in. It's like it's got so much juice, I can't hold on to it.
Yeah.
But then gradually it sinks in.
Sure.
I struggled a lot. This goes back to, like, how do you end up doing what you're doing? A good probably reason that I even stayed in school, because I was telling you I was ready to drop out, is that I probably graduated high school with I don't know, like a 1.9 grade point average. Okay. And just did not like school. Didn't want to take home a book.
Not a valedictorian.
No.
Right. Okay. I see.
Absolutely was not. And so I think, and I struggled with reading and some dyslexia and stuff, and thought of myself as being kind of a something like a dumb person, or something wrong with me. I couldn't do what everybody else was doing. And so there's that compensation piece that, and you would think, oh, you get a PhD, that's going to do it. And now you won't think of yourself as dumb. But that didn't do it.
No.
It's like this, there isn't something outside there that's like, so whether you think it's money or success or sex or whatever it is, that outside thing is more likely not going to do it.
Yes, I think. I think myself, and I'm sure many others, but I'm the only one in the room. So I think for me, when you say those things, it in many ways just feels like it couldn't be more perfectly timed, this interview. I think that I'm 25, so the age that I'm at now, I think I have a lot of, well, at least according to my therapist, I'm relatively on track for some of these big life questions that I'm facing. But finding that internal source is something I'm very interested in at the moment. And I think at different times through my late teens and childhood and even early adulthood, I've leaned on different things, different substances, different outlets and things to find it. But for you, when you're in the actual career aspect of your time in academia, is that difficult for you to find within yourself the motivation to go? Does that mostly just come from the clients or the students or the others, or is it something actually on your part that makes you come to work every day, or is it just helping folks that seems to do it a lot of the time?
Yeah, I guess I would be maybe I'm a little help avoidant for some reason, but and maybe I'm just a little more of a selfish person. Like even like coming over here today to talk with you, I wasn't thinking, I'm going to help him out or do it for Candace. I was just like, this will be fun.
Good. And that's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. So, like, I think that's how I think about, like, seeing clients. What's going to be fun about meeting with this person or teaching? What's going to be fun about going? I had, like, one teacher in my master's program who taught a group class, and I just loved that class. And the class changes because who's in it, and it's interactive. Right. And I took that course 3 times.
Really?
I only got credit once, but I took it 3 times because I just loved going in and doing it.
What was it about the class specifically that sort of drew you in that direction? I mean, just the...
It wasn't a lecture. It wasn't because there was no... It was just... It was like, okay.
The lack of structure. I mean, that,
it's like it was improvisation. Groups are improvisational. Yes. He would just have people sit down. It wasn't like group therapy where it's like, okay, let me hear. I'm going to get up on the whiteboard and put 10 things about what you need to do in recovery for alcohol. No, it's just okay. Who has something to say? And then it just goes. And it's that.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of part of what's coming out of this for me. It's not so much because it doesn't feel. I can structure. There's things that when I decide I want to do something, I can do it over and over. I am like a freaking bulldog.
Right.
Right. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get the timing right. I'm going to get the words right. I'm going to get, and I can be very micro. And I love structuring that. But what I love more, and they're not opposed in my way of thinking, is improvisation.
Right.
Because the more you have built a structural foundation with something, and put the reps in, then the way you can improv becomes bigger.
Yes.
And if I think of this again like a basketball game, if you just have a pickup game and people are just playing, it can be improvisational. It's great. There's no coach. There's no da-da-da-da.
Right.
But a lot of time could be spent people saying, that was a foul, that's not a foul, da-da-da-da. Or you have somebody who's just hogging the ball all the time.
Right.
So then you get in and you have a ref, and a ref's saying that's a foul or that's not a foul. And a coach is saying, no, you don't get to take all the shots. And that can make watching basketball more fun.
Yes.
If it's not over-reffed or
right.
overcoached.
Yes.
So
then it's a problem.
Yeah. So right. It's not like an either or.
Right.
Do I want to pick this or that?
Yeah.
It's the way that those things can kind of be a both and flow.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do I have improv and structure? And
right.
that's when I feel like I'm in the sweet spot.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I'm sure they will. And I hope that a lot of my comedian friends have tuned into this episode as well, because so much of what you're saying, even some of the language, the improv versus the structure versus it is so similar to our world. And I think that, at least in my case, I find it easier to articulate some of those things only because of my personal relationship with psychology and some of the language there.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to revisit something we were talking about, and then I was going to say about 4 different things. There's thinking, there's feeling, and then there's the sensation.
Yeah.
But there's another aspect.
Okay.
And now that you're bringing the music back in, that because it doesn't lend itself to research and psychology as well as those other 4 things.
Okay.
Is soul.
Soul.
Yeah, and so sometimes you listen to a musician and you go, that has soul.
He's got soul.
Like there's soul coming through it.
Yes.
You could have someone technically blow
right.
your mind. Somebody could even play with a lot of feeling.
Yeah.
Somebody can make you want to get up and your body wants to move. But soul is its own kind of thing.
It's more abstract, I feel.
That's right.
It's much tougher for me to try and articulate.
It is hard. Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think of it as maybe the combination of all those other things all together.
Sure.
It's like the whole of that.
Oh, yeah. That's a great... Yeah, I would agree with that. I think so.
When if I'm sitting with a client, and whatever the content is that they're bringing in, if you ask them thinking things or feeling things or even noticing their body, but boy, if you can ask things that are kind of soul oriented,
right.
it is now it's even a very, very different thing.
What would be an example of a soul approach to something like that? I mean, really any scenario. I guess I can imagine the sort of visceral gut feelings that I get in a session. I can imagine the mental side of things, but to think on when does something hit my soul in a session, that's a little harder for me.
Yeah. Well, if we stay with music as a metaphor for that.
Okay.
Or art as a metaphor for that.
Yeah.
You could be at an art museum and I could be looking at some artwork on the wall and go, oh, look at how they use the color here, and I'm looking at different parts of it.
Yeah.
But if I step back and then just take that in as a whole, or I can go, oh, listen to that guitar, oh, listen to the bass, listen to how but then if I step back and take it in as a whole, so my sense is that if you invite someone to take some experience that they have, positive, negative, or whatever that they're having, and just have them kind of step back from it, so they're not just like in the thought, in the feeling, in the sensation, but there's this like, because it's not like ego that gets lost in that who I am is what's happening right in this moment. It's this like witness observer thing that can step back and then. Oh, that's the whole of how that symphony sounds. That's the whole of how that day, or you're tasting food and it's like, there's a little this in there, but then here's the wholeness of it. So it's just a different, and it is hard to put it in language.
It is.
But you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
And sometimes you meet people and you can't pin down, there's something about how they think or how they act or the feelings, but there's just like, they
have soul.
Yeah. Or the energy or soul or whatever you want. And
I know the exact,
Yeah. And I'm not saying soul in it's fine if some people want to do that, but I'm not saying that in any religious, kind of thing.
Right.
That's why I like to use the art and the music as the soul thing.
Yeah.
But and so it just almost like invites people to step back and go, oh, that's what the whole of it is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's a specific person in my life that comes to mind when you say that, and that she and I actually have almost exact opposite opinions on nearly everything we've ever discussed. But there is something about this person that from the moment I met her, she's such a special energy and a presence in my life. Yes. And it is at times difficult to define. It has even created problems in other romantic relationships where I go, I can't possibly articulate to you that this is not romantic. This is quite literally soul. This is abstract. This is something else. And that's something that has been a challenge for me in the past. But I think that I do have at least one example of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. Like you could make something and you look at the ingredients and you don't necessarily love all the ingredients, but then in its whole, you're like, and so you could focus on the differences and the conflicts.
Right.
But yet there's something of the whole.
Something.
That is just like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a person that I've had numerous, late night, long hour conversations with over many different stages of my life, and each time we both walk away with mostly disagreement and yet some weird, profound new revelation, some connection, despite not really being on the same track. It is abstract is the word that comes to mind for sure.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of this till you just started saying that. But, we need people who are kind of our opposites, who have that difference, because it invites us into our own wholeness.
Yes.
So the very people that in some ways are your best teachers are the ones that prick you a little bit or rub you the wrong way a little bit because you're feeling that difference. But the difference that you might want to push away from or not give attention to is often an undeveloped, unappreciated aspect of ourselves. And if what we're moving towards is a greater sense of our own wholeness, then we need to have the people that are giving us that gift of it. So we say we want to be whole until somebody comes along and they rub us the wrong way. And it's like, I don't want to be whole.
Don't disrupt my norm.
That's
my
right.
Status.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah. And that part, a lot of times I don't know that either of us would say we walk away from those conversations convinced. Neither of us, and we're not really setting out to convince, to shift mindset or anything. But the perspective that comes from just, that is a way that someone thinks.
Yes.
That is how they see this thing that I have based my whole identity on, or I'm very passionate about. Isn't that different?
Yes.
I really value that, and I think, at least in my case, that person is pretty unique as far as that role in my norm.
And I can see how that back to where we were talking before, I can see how a comedian can really bring about individual change and social change, because something that somebody took for granted of seeing it the same way, the joke made you see it in a way that you hadn't seen it, and now they can't undo it because it's like, the joke pulled the curtain back on that thing for good or bad, and now that it has,
here it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think in my case, a lot of my sort of at the attempt to not go in that political or contemporary or topical direction, a lot of my stuff actually goes backwards into my own childhood, my own family dynamic. And I think a lot of my favorite comedians do as well. So there's the influence. But in my case, a lot of times I'll take some of what are the most difficult or maybe unique or unorthodox aspects of my childhood and spin it through that web of humor. And when it comes out the other side, it's something that folks either strongly relate to and enjoy, or strongly do not relate to and enjoy. It's one or the other.
If you don't have some people not liking what you're doing something wrong. That's true. And when you're going in and being having the courage to share something from your own history and maybe some things that were difficult, but be able to make fun of them, then you're inviting them to laugh at their own humanity, and rather than trying to keep it at a distance. It's like, he told me about that same thing that I relate to, and now I can maybe sit with it and be present with it in a different way because he had the courage to put it out there
yes.
and make a joke out of it.
Yes. And a lot of times that does come from the fact that they actually can't relate to what I'm saying at all. You know, I have quite a bit of material about my relationship with having a single teenage mom, about living in a home with my grandparents at a young age, about relationship things. And I do have crowd members that will approach me and go, hey, man, I was raised by my grandpa. I live with my teen mom.
That's right.
I so relate. And then I have people who go, your life is crazy. Like, I can't even imagine. But both produce this sense of joy that they are able to get from me. And I do not take lightly my role in that, and that I'm almost this middleman between these words that I've crafted and what I'm saying and their response to it.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm sort of the messenger at times.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think of that as a metaphor for myself. It's just I'm often like a bridge, and people just get to, you know, I'm just there. I'm the bridge, and I don't care whether you're going north, south, east, west. You're just a bridge, and you.
Thanks for traveling.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming by.
Yeah. Thanks for walking. In a good way. Thanks for.
Yes.
Let me travel with you while you're going over the bridge.
Yeah, I feel that way too, and I think obviously, you know, we've talked about a little music, art, all these things, and I know that when speaking to Mom leading up to the interview and kind of just spitballing of some ideas and stuff, one thing she mentioned is your passion for pickleball as well. Yeah. So we got to dive in there, because I know as someone who has dabbled, as in I've played a couple games. Yeah. I have really. Point of ignorance for sure is how I'm approaching the conversation, but talk to me a little about the relationship with that and what that's kind of brought to your professional relationships as well.
Yeah, I think anytime, and I used to do this in class too, I would go around at the beginning and say, just tell me anything that you have spent time in your life with that brings you some pleasure. And instead, it could be gardening, it could be cooking, it could be photography, music. Don't care what it is, because I find that then I can take that, just like we're going back and forth between psychology. So the process, the content can be very different between being a psychologist or being a comedian or being an artist or a musician. Yeah. But there's a process that is like this thread that when people do it. So you could pick anything and learn everything you needed to know about the world. Right. Like you could get people from 1,000 different professions who really honed into it and were passionate about it, and you get and they would each talk about their own thing, but there would be a thread that they all are like, oh yeah.
Right. Some common ground.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So pickleball has been that. Anything can be your teacher if you're willing to let it be, I guess is basically what I'm saying.
If you allow it to teach you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, like one of the things that, like an instinctual thing for me with pickleball is that when you feel under pressure, the instinct is to try to fight your way out of pressure. And so if someone's you're off balance and someone's hitting it hard at you, you just want to not be under that pressure, so you try to hit it back really hard to end the pressure. But really what you need to do in pickleball is when you're under pressure, you need to surrender to the pressure and hit the most neutral shot that's soft and in the middle, barely goes over the net, so that they can't attack it, and you just go, they have the best of me right now, I'm just going to. So it's like when you're quicksand, don't panic. When you're feeling the pressure. And a lot of us aren't wired at first to surrender. And the earlier you surrender to pressure, you get feedback, it just goes better. Like fighting it when you're under pressure doesn't.
Yes, and I am not a great example of that. I would say I think one thing for a lot of folks starting out in their stand-up journey is they tend to rush. They tend to speed up to feed in some instincts. And there's a great
hurry up and be funny.
Hurry up, get to the joke, be quick. Talk too fast, talk over laughs even at times. And one thing that the comedian Ron White has said of advice is, if you think you're doing real good, slow down.
Yeah.
But if you think you're doing real bad,
yeah,
slow down.
Yeah.
And the opposite is typically true. And that when that pressure's on, when you feel I'm losing them, it's getting quiet, it's getting tense. I want to speed up. I want to just throw stuff and try to get you back.
Yeah.
But yes, part of the growth of a stand-up is that over time you relax a little and you sit in the pocket and you allow room for that silence.
That's right.
And that awkwardness. Yeah.
Other thing is being too aggressive, like, going for the big shot when you would be better off putting the other person under pressure than you trying to hit this like great winner and feel so great about what you did. It's just like, give them a little bit that kind of,
a little play in the line, a little.
Yeah.
There's almost a sense of ego there, too, of like, I'll just finish you right now.
Oh, yeah. No. Oh, pickleball is, your ego just like, I'm going to smack this thing,
Yeah. Because I have the power to do it.
Yes.
Right.
So even if you have the power, it's not always the wisest thing to just like use it at full force.
And that is so metaphorical for so many aspects of my life and I'm sure others, where it's just because I have the potential to create this reaction or to dominate this conversation or whatever it is, and I think I'll flip it just briefly to my romantic relationship as well. I've been with my girlfriend about 3 years, and I think that prior to being in this relationship, I have no shame in saying that I was just an absolutely terrible partner from a lot of different aspects, both from a lack of experience and just a lack of development and emotional IQ and many things. But the patience that I've had to develop in dealing with this relationship has really been difficult at times and beneficial to her, and then also to me in a broader sense. I find that in industry things, stand-up things, I'm a little more patient and I'm a little more willing to just allow what has happened to happen to me.
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas prior, I was a lot more rigid and a lot more quick to point and go, you did this to me, you put me here, and lash out with that sense of ego.
Yeah. Other thing about pickleball, again, all these things just, it's just metaphors that you can use.
Right.
And you can start feeling really, good about your game and you're winning. And, but there's who are you playing with? And if you reach a certain level and you're winning a lot, then you can go start to play people at a different level. And then it's like, oh,
I'm a rookie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's there's something to be said for if your goal is I want to have more diversity, I want to get better at this, then you put yourself back into being the worst player on the court again.
Yes.
And not everybody wants to do that.
Exactly. And what do you think?
So do you want to win or do you want to get better?
Right.
Those are different goals.
Right. Because there are guys, and I think I've seen even on the internet, because we have so many different sources of information. I've seen videos of these guys who hang out at a boxing gym and they know they can pick off anybody in that gym anytime. Yeah. And then you bring in a professional.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I don't want to fight the guy. I'm supposed to be the top dog in this environment. What do you think? What is that human aspect that we almost by default, I think, are drawn to? I want to dominate, but not test myself. I don't want to put myself in the role of the rookie or the underdog, and I think some folks do. I think it's maybe developed, but is it just simply comfort in knowing that we are the baddest on the block? There's some security and comfort there.
Yeah, I think a word that's Brene Brown talks about vulnerability, and most of us are trying to avoid vulnerability. But what you'll do in your life to avoid being vulnerable will become a bigger problem than if you just let yourself live through the experience of vulnerability. And if you keep revisiting a vulnerability that you know is a vulnerability, it'll start losing its power and influence over you.
Interesting.
It has more power over you when you're trying to avoid it,
than
because you start spending time with it.
Than to just allow.
Then you start having, I lived through that. I lived through that. It didn't come to a world. Everybody didn't hate me.
Yeah.
And so you start to change your relationship with vulnerability. But if you think, I need to avoid vulnerability at all costs,
It dominates you.
It dominates you.
Yeah.
And it's holding you back.
Yes.
So it's a very funny thing, and this is essentially what I'm asking clients to do when they come in, is they're coming in saying, I want you to tell me what to do and fix things so that I don't feel so vulnerable. And I'm saying, unless you're willing to be vulnerable, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
So what they're wanting to buy and what I'm selling them are not the same thing.
Sure. And at times, is that met with like tension or apprehension?
Absolutely.
Or they're like, I didn't ask for this.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people will, they can see that and they get interested in it. But I'd rather not waste their time and my time if they're clear. I don't want vulnerability.
Right.
Then it's like, that's fine. I don't have a need for you to, and maybe somebody else would see it differently. But if we're gonna do this thing,
right.
I remember when I was playing a lot of years ago. I played a lot of tennis. I remember this one guy, and he had this hitch in his serve and overheads, and he goes to the pro, and the pro goes, "You need to change this," and the guy just refused to change it, and so nothing ever happened because when he tried to change it, he was worse for a while.
Right.
And so we don't so I feel vulnerable. I'm coming in for help. Now you're getting me to do something that makes me feel even more vulnerable, and I'm getting worse results.
Yes.
I don't want to do it.
Yes.
So there's the short-term
Yeah.
avoidance of vulnerability, but there's a long-term benefit of a willingness
Right.
to be vulnerable. And a lot of times some people are wanting to just live in the short term.
Yes.
And
not wanting to start over or to become that novice again.
Yeah. Like someone's like, oh, change your grip, change this, change that.
Right.
Or change how you relate to your girlfriends. Or it's like, well, crap.
Exactly. I think, for me, that's probably the most prevalent example in that, I think in a lot of ways this relationship has redefined what I am as a partner or what I am as a boyfriend, not just what the relationship can do for me. You know, it's actually what is my involvement here? What are my key roles and how good am I at doing that? Yeah. And that's totally different than anything prior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a woman tell me this. She was at her aunt's husband died, and she was at the funeral sitting next to her aunt. And they had been married for like 65 years or something crazy, like the guy's like in his late 80s or whatever it was. And she's sitting there thinking, oh, how amazing they were married for all this time. And her aunt leans over to her and she says, if he was only kind, I could have loved him. So you could accomplish staying married for a really long time.
Right.
If that's your goal.
Right.
So.
But to have that deep sense of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be in a relationship with somebody who was treating you kind.
Yeah.
And so we might say, hey, I want to get rich, or I want to win, or I do.
Yeah.
But maybe we're not asking all the questions that could be asked.
Maybe I want to be a 65-year marriage. I want to have that achievement.
Yeah.
But what is within those 65 years? Right.
So even just on going back to pickleball, I can go out and play, and it might be, am I trying to win, or am I trying to learn how to hit this shot that I've been working on?
Yes.
And if I work on this shot, and I'm working on it because I'm not good at it, I'm going to lose a lot of games.
And a lot of folks don't want to do that.
That's right.
They would rather win.
But it's not a stubbornness. It's just getting more clarity about what it is you want.
Yeah.
And that just shows up. And this is a tough one for me because I grew up playing a lot of competitive sports. It's like, are you here to win or have fun?
Yeah.
And I look around, and it's almost the people at the highest level are having the least amount of fun.
Yes.
I watch these other people coming out, and they're laughing and joking, and I've even been with players, and we're looking like, boy, they're having fun over there. But we're like,
we're over here killing ourselves.
Yeah,
for this game.
Cussing at yourself and everything else. And it's so like, what was it? Why am I out here again?
Yes. That's another area that I think that this conversation lends itself to stand up, is that in a green room of 5 comedians, you really have 5 unique takes on this experience we're sharing. I'll use last night, for example. I think that we had a comedian on the show who is from Asheville, and she's fairly new to stand-up in that she is kind of just now at the level where she's starting to travel out of town for some shows and where she started. And I think that she would be the first to tell you that she is not at the level she wants to be as far as joke writing and performing. She's still growing. But she has that soul or energy aspect we mentioned earlier as well, and having that in the room and having someone who goes, isn't this great? We all just get to be here and just have fun, and this is amazing, is so infectious to everyone else. And if nothing else, obviously I book her because she has a talent and has the potential, and I see it. Almost more than that, I book her for what she brings to the room and brings to the table. And I really value that because we often find ourselves in green rooms with 10 guys who have everything we could ever want and are miserable.
Yes.
Miserable.
Yeah, she brings some soul to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then going back to the thing we were talking about roles, sometimes you look in families and one person's carrying a lot of the soul.
Yeah.
And that becomes a problem when that's like when the Model T came out. Nobody knew how to make a car because they just were working on the assembly line. They just know how to do their thing.
Right.
And that's where families get you in trouble, because at some point in life, it's like you don't have the role has you, and you didn't choose it, but the system had so much power of wanting you to do that. And then we get stuck in our roles and think our roles are who we are.
Right.
And it's not that you're longing to leave that person or leave this, it's that you feel the weight of the limitations of a role being your identity.
Right. You start to feel boxed in almost.
Yeah.
And
So it's like, be a comedian, but it's different than I'm a person who happens to do comedy, as opposed to I am a comedian, and then it defines you. Yeah. It's just a different thing.
It is, and I find one example really sticks out to me that anyone who makes it their entire source of identity in that way, the second that is threatened, the second even if
you'll kill someone if I mean at a macro level, the world's been killing each other over whether it's your religious identity, your political identity. Like once you identify, dangerous.
Yes. And in his case, it's I think we all have this source of identity. That's one of the first things I present myself as is I'm a comedian, I'm a producer, I'm a podcaster, but I also have a relationship. I have a family dynamic. I have all these things that bring me joy. I have my own relationship with nature or spirituality or whatever it is. I have hobbies that I don't monetize, unlike this show. I have these things. Whereas when a person like the one I'm referencing has really just this one thing, even at times I've seen this person have just a bad set, just a tough 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes of life. But it's everything to this person. And that can be so detrimental. So it's frightening. It really is.
Back to pickleball. One shot can just be it's like the end of the world.
If that's all you want. If that's all you have.
How could I have missed that shot? How did I lose this game? How did I? No. And I can get absolutely sucked into that. And
you do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I tell myself I'm going to go out there and not get sucked into it, and then I'll get in the heat of competition. And I don't. People ask me to play tournaments. I don't play tournaments because I just know myself. I'm not going to do well in tournaments because I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm like an alcoholic and somebody says, hey, let's go to a bar. I have the good sense to go, no. Not for me. Probably not my place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that takes some real kind of integrity and forward thinking as well to go. I have a friend who's been on the show as well, John Pruitt, and he is a fantastic comedian. He is just wonderful. But anytime there is competition involved, he gets so anxious and so upset that he has now openly said, no more. I will not enter festivals, competitions. I know that it's not good for me.
Yeah, if I'm saying to ask myself, if am I playing for fun, and I just have less fun when I'm competing. I just do.
Right. Yeah, and so many folks are not as open to make that distinction between, is this actually making me happy or is this igniting something in me?
Right. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we make decisions about that with careers. It's like, well, this will make me more money, but which job would make me happier and why? So it's finding that. But I wish, and I used to think it was something off about me. Why can't you compete and still have fun? And then I just had to surrender because I just can't. I don't. That's just how it is.
And that awareness is important. I think that maybe not everyone suffers from that, but to have the awareness and know that, I just can't. I can't switch it on and off in that way.
And some people I know, they can't have fun if they're not competing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know a couple of those freaks myself.
If we're not, like, I have people. I love to we just call it drilling, and you're going out and you're helping each other get better on something. You're working on stuff. But you can feel the shift, and some people are like, "No, I don't. If we're not going to keep score, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't want to have anything to do with just like practice."
Exactly.
And so just different people, different things. But I'm just having more fun, and it's fun for me to get better, and it's hard to get better. At least for me, it is. It's hard to get better when you're competing.
Yes. Because you're not actually focused on getting better.
Yeah.
Focus on winning.
That's right.
Just like we mentioned earlier. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And the last thing I did want to ask you about too, just sort of briefly, is you, for me, are a big example of this, and I think a lot of people may feel the same way, in that when I think of the word therapist, when I think of the word psychologist, I think maybe, again, from a place of ignorance, a lot of folks will place them on this pedestal and go in with this expectation of, I need someone who's perfect to tell me how to fix me. Yeah. I mean, talk to me a little about what that is from the flip side of, you are human, and you've mentioned the competitive nature, some of these aspects of yourself that aren't perfect. Is that ever difficult to translate to clients in that way and go, no, we have our flaws too?
Yeah. I can remember a moment that of clarity. I was this therapist that I really liked, and I was big on finding therapists that I liked. Like, I'd read their books, and then I would go to their talks, and I would watch like everything, and just like you probably do,
obsessive over
certain comedians, and it's like I'm gonna and I would watch tapes of them like dozens of times over and over again. So far back, because I was old enough that I had to like set the reel up on the projector to watch it again. Right. In my little cubicle in the library. But I think he was making the distinction that because they talk a lot about this, of like being genuine and sincere as a therapist with people, and being present with people. And he made this distinction that you're playing a role, and you're not a real person with your clients. You are a symbolic figure in the life of your clients.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And if you don't show a certain degree of your own vulnerability, that will amplify the symbolic notions that they have about you.
Right.
And he had a way of saying things. He said the best thing you can do with a client as soon as possible is just like cut your own throat, because
show them I bleed.
Absolutely.
I bleed too.
Yes.
Yeah. That's similar to, I think, back near the start of this, we were mentioning the sort of self-deprecative nature of comedians as well.
Yeah.
I'm guilty of it as well. Sometimes the first thing out of my mouth is, look how ridiculous I look or sound or am, to kind of neutralize that disconnect between this pedestal you've put me on.
Yeah, maybe sometimes the best thing could happen is a client leaves and goes, I thought I was fucked up till I met my therapist.
Right. Get a load of that guy.
Sure. Now I feel better. I don't need to go back and, that's what you can do for them.
Right.
But showing your vulnerability, showing your humanness, showing your struggle, and that we're all in it. And that maybe what distinguishes the therapists from the other person is just your willingness to walk into that vulnerability and walk down that path of ignorance and get more comfortable with it, because you've just spent more time sitting with your own ignorance and your own vulnerability. And that's the only thing. It's not that I'm not as vulnerable or not as ignorant.
Right.
It's just I've spent more time with my vulnerability and ignorance than you
Sure.
have.
Sure. Yeah.
So we're going to go on a hike, but I've been on this route a few.
Right.
I don't know everything about it. Don't know what we're going to run into.
Yes.
But so, you've just gotten a little more comfortable than maybe the person who you're sitting with is with it.
Yeah, and coming from the client side of it, I can say pretty firmly that most of the kind of development in my relationship with my own therapist has come from that point of him going, listen, I've been there, I've done this. My therapist has a background in music, and so oftentimes many of the parallels that you and I have drawn, he's able to reach as well, and we find those bridges to his own mistakes or his failures in that industry. Yeah.
And I'm so picky about language, but that's part of like being a comedian or a poet or something. And so as a therapist, I'm all about words creating reality, not just describing them. Yeah. And so sometimes if a therapist I've seen where people, I've been there, done that, it shuts down the conversation as opposed to, I'm still there too, and I'm still trying to do that.
Right.
So
actively.
Yes. You feel that difference because when someone gives you been there, done that,
right,
like they're coming from here.
Sure.
That language gets in the way, and
that's maybe on my part. I think I would definitely more relate my relationship with him to what you're saying.
Yes,
and that I'm in the fire with you.
Yeah, that's right.
Sort of.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And that just from the client side makes you feel not alone.
Yeah. But I mean, there are therapists who are coming from that. I've been doing this for a long time, and let me tell you,
I had one myself.
Yeah. So
I have one myself, and I'm no longer with them.
Yes. It just so they're so busy trying to be helpful or fix it or be wise or something that it can just get in the way. And I'm not saying their hearts aren't in the right place, but the actual thing that they're doing may not be getting where they want to get.
Yes. I think in that specific example, I think the sort of dominance with wisdom is how I would describe the relationship there. And I only attended a few sessions with this person because it was pretty evident to me that something in me was just not going to respond to that approach. Yeah. It's maybe not universal. I think maybe someone would. But as a client, I knew this is not for me.
Well, I think evidence of that is sort of, and it's just a matter of taste, so I'm not trying to offend anybody.
Yeah.
But like a person who is very top down is like Dr. Phil, and he's like incredibly successful.
Of course.
Has a big audience of people.
Yes.
Because he's going to say, this is what you're doing wrong, this is what you're doing. Right. It's very top down.
Yes.
And I know I've known young people that like they don't do well in a very open, free thing. And then they go in the military and somebody's telling them do this, when to do it, how to do it, and they start to thrive in that.
Right.
So I'm not saying that I mean, for some people, a very top-down, super structured thing is great for them.
Yes.
And it's giving them what they need. So that's kind of the beauty. You don't know what people are going to laugh at. And in therapy, it's not like, oh, you're just dispensing pills for this or that. And that's part of what I think kept me going is like so many times it's like when it's not going well, that's an invitation for me to expand my repertoire of how to be.
Right.
It's like, oh, this person's going to be a challenge to be with because
Right.
Yeah.
But subjecting yourself to that challenge, just like we mentioned with pickleball, going back to being the underdog in that thing is
that's right.
A special
Stepping
skill.
Up to the next level. And you have people who are like, ooh, I'm going to learn a lot from this.
Right. And I think, unorthodox is another word we've used several times today. And when I'm thinking of, you mentioned briefly of your childhood and describing that in somewhat of unorthodox environment to now your approach through your career being somewhat unorthodox or less structure, less typical. That just makes perfect sense to me. That through line.
Yeah. I mean, I never had to, they would look at it if I brought it to them, but my parents never said, where's your report card? What's your report card? Like, they just were like, well, that's your business.
They allowed you to grow the freedom.
Yeah.
That's a special kind of acknowledgement to them as well, that they provided that.
And there were times in my life that got me in trouble.
Oh, sure. Too much freedom.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I didn't understand, like I remember I had this very regimented gym teacher and he had everybody stand at attention. And so he's like walking up and down.
I don't like this guy.
Yeah, and he's walking up and down the line, and he comes up to me, and he takes his finger and just pokes my stomach. I guess he wanted to see how hard my abs were or something. And I just instinctually just reached back and pushed him in the stomach. And it wasn't a retaliation.
Right.
I just didn't, because this was like in elementary school, and I just didn't have this like fear of adults, or that the thinking of like I had so much freedom with adults that I just innocently did it. But he just blew a gasket.
Sure.
He like lost his mind.
The authority involved.
Yeah. Like I was totally confused.
Like, what's the problem?
You just did this to me. I did it to you.
Right. Are we not on the same level here?
Yeah, we're playing. You touched me. I touched you. And, and it's like, so I like learned, there's a whole world of hierarchy. And even, through later in life, I still had to keep learning that in different work environments and situations. There's people who really operate from hierarchy.
Right. I had a friend on a while back who was unschooled as a kid, which is a term I was not familiar with prior to him. But he had a very unorthodox, non-traditional schooling and education. And that he said the same thing. I asked him, I said, did you ever really go overboard on that freedom? And he said, absolutely. He goes, there's periods of my childhood where I did nothing but play video games and cost myself so much information and education. And then there's periods where I relished in the freedom and really chased after what I wanted. And it all worked out in his case, but I can imagine that freedom at times does give us almost a little much too room if we allow it to.
Yeah, I had to learn a hard lesson. My first week of being in my master's program in counseling, I challenged the teacher. I went to a very liberal school too, small school, and we were invited to openly challenge teachers and just speak your mind. And I just thought, wow, this is going to be great. And the master's program is going to be even more. And I challenged the teacher on the first day, and woo, it was.
They didn't care for it.
Oh no, it did not go.
Right. Well, that kind of goes back to what you mentioned earlier. If anytime someone challenges our norm or our status quo of typically I'm at the front of this classroom, I'm in charge here, and then someone threatens that. If your whole identity is I'm the teacher, I'm in charge, you're going to feel threatened and you're going to react.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Graham. I appreciate you coming. I know you mentioned at the start that you don't really have any wares to sell. You've got no dog in the fight as far as getting your message out there. But what I will ask you, is there any resource or any specific voice out there that folks can turn to that you think is a good source of information? Because I think in this environment, in this culture, we so often get voices of people who, just to be blunt, don't know what the fuck they're talking about and are just giving information or giving advice. Is there any guidance you have for anyone listening who maybe needs some resources or some channels or avenues to find helpful information in this strange world we're living in?
I guess I'm more of the like you might approach picking music or art. Look at just lots of art books and just know what's out there. Listen to different kinds of music, and then when you find something, and something really hits you, just that's how I do it, and then just pursue that. So I wouldn't even pretend to know what somebody would want to eat or do whatever. It's like try lots of different foods.
Yes.
Find what you like. So
follow what resonates with you.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times folks, my brain immediately jumps to this kind of tribalization that we're experiencing now, where folks find what resonates with them and then they build this bubble and they only consume that. But you're saying just the opposite of try everything and continue to challenge yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like I was doing that. I'm a bit addicted to YouTube stuff. And part of what I like to do on YouTube when I find, because I still don't like to read because reading's just hard for me.
Sure.
So that's like, I'm so grateful I live in a world where
yes,
it's because I love to learn.
Me too.
But I don't love to read.
Me too.
And so I am like so grateful for podcasts and YouTube and all that kind of thing. But I do make a point of looking for, and it's getting harder because now they're just putting so much trash on the titles of YouTube, and then it's not even what they're putting in the title, and then that really pisses me off.
It's clickbait.
Yeah, like, and then the clickbait is just crazy. But I do try to find stuff that is an alternative point of view. So when I'm like, oh, I really like this, and I start getting into that, and then I'm like, well, who doesn't like this?
Yes.
And who's speaking against this, and then go like listen to some of that.
Right.
And that's just been helpful to me.
Yeah, I think that's great because I think that so many people react to big news in our society or big culture, and especially with the polarization, you align with your red or your blue, your Fox News or your CNN, and then once you are on that news cycle, now everything you read just agrees with your point of view. You're not challenging it anymore.
And that goes back to, it's funny, that goes back to pickleball too. Like when you're learning how to do pickleball, or I'm teaching, somebody wants me to help them play pickleball. And I'll say, well, you want to, do this with your wrist and do this with your arm and hit more with your shoulder and all of that I'm saying is true and was true for me when I was starting. But as you progress, so when you progress, you actually then start going and using your wrist more.
Yes.
But when you're first starting, if you use your wrist, you won't have any consistency. So you have to, so even the truths of how to do that, how to hit the ball, changes and evolves, and they look like you're saying, and you are saying complete opposite things, because at one level you're saying don't use your wrist, but then you get to this level and it is use your wrist.
Yes.
But you had to build this foundation.
Right.
Yeah.
And that can be so discouraging, I think, to folks, especially if you, in my case, I think, again, to stand up or even podcasting of, I learned to do it this way and I'm just now getting proficient at it.
Yeah.
Start over, learn this new thing.
Like I could see, like you see someone and they're going really fast and rushing their routine.
Yeah.
You see that person 10 years later and they just are so much more polished that they could go fast.
Yeah.
And then fast as it stays, and people stay connected, and it's just this, and people are laughing at all these things.
Yes.
So it wasn't true that you should never go fast.
Absolutely.
But there's a time when it was true.
But starting out.
And just like matching it. So,
exactly. Yeah.
So
we have a local comedian who's done a number of my shows. He's actually kind of the personal favorite of my mom's, and a lot of my family love him. And when he hits this gear up, when he hits this RPM, it turns into this just really assault of words that he is firing at you. It's a rant. It's a beautiful, chaotic, loud rant that kind of, and in his case, I've seen this go on for up to 10 minutes of just full throttle, just all gas, no brakes. And it reaches that point where the crowd is sucked into this rhythm and they are actually not able to breathe. And sometimes I don't even know if they hear every word he's saying, but they feel every word he's saying. Yeah. And so starting out, the number one advice I would give a comic is don't do that.
Yes.
And they're like, well, it works for him. And I go, yeah, but you're not him. You're not Hunter Roberts. You need to settle down. Yeah. But it works for him.
Yeah.
And that's because, much to your advice earlier, he found what worked for him. He tried everything. He found what resonated, and he followed it. And it's beautiful to watch.
Yeah. And sometimes what worked for you as things shift, and in my case, age starts to be a factor, and so there's certain things that that would be the better way to do it, but my body's not going to let me do that now.
Sure.
And so it's how do you have the humbleness to know where you are and what you can do, and so Bob Dylan gets to be the best Bob Dylan, and Johnny Cash gets to be the best Johnny Cash, and you get to be the best you.
It's all I can be. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
Which doesn't necessarily mean better.
Right. No, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think
like we said, allowing yourself to be right where you are.
Yes. Exactly.
Because that's where you are.
Exactly. And that's a very current struggle for me. I mean, that's somewhere I'm at right now, and I think a lot of folks resonate. But just age-wise, I think that's where I'm at, and having for really the first time this sense of identity and this sense of home and belonging and all these feelings, and then wrestling with, okay, now when do we abandon all that and start over and become the rookie on the court again? That's a difficult place to be in. It really is, when you feel like you're starting to bump the ceiling with your head a little bit. So how do we get around it? How do we move to the next level?
I was just watching the thing this morning on that CBS Sunday morning show, and I didn't recognize the guy's name, but he started being a childhood actor when he was like 5 and had this successful career and even into his early 20s. And then he just like walked away, and he's back now doing a big Broadway thing.
Oh, interesting.
And he said, I had all this success, but I knew I couldn't handle it all. And so I just walked away from it.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm looking at your picture of Johnny Cash, and and I'm thinking for some of these people that, people, they want to get big, they want to get famous, and just being you.
Yeah.
But then the power, you can't just be you anymore.
Exactly.
And then that's what eats them up.
You become this caricature that you've created.
And like we were talking in a family, you can become that role.
Yes.
You can be, and so then you're not that role. You're not Johnny Cash, the
man in black.
Yes. You're just Johnny Cash.
Yes. And he is he's a very important person to me. He's someone who I've really dived into and related to. And that's an example for sure of someone who struggled to walk that line, no pun intended, between am I this monstrosity of a entity that I've created, or am I this man who struggles with things like addiction and love and relationships. And he, in time, he became very transparent about that. Thank God, because I've managed to learn from all those things. But I think that so many people struggle to reach that point of vulnerability that makes him sort of stand out to me in that way. Him and others, for sure. Yeah.
So you and I could end our time together by saying, I hope you have some vulnerability today, or I hope you run into some vulnerability tomorrow, because if that's how you're going to get more comfortable with yourself, is that moment that vulnerability shows up that you didn't invite it, you didn't go looking for it, and there it is. And then when it shows up, can you pause and spend a little time with it and have a relationship with it? But that's an odd thing to wish for your friend to have some vulnerability.
I think it's great. I think they may not react great to it. I think they may say, "What the hell are you talking about?" But no, I agree.
No, we always say, "Have a wonderful day." Be safe. I'm looking for that person who answers the phone and say, "Hi, have a vulnerable day." Hope you're having a vulnerable day.
One of my favorite comedians and another just big voice in my life is a comedian named Theo Vaughn, and his kind of slogan that he says, and I even have a hoodie of his that has it on the back, is take care of yourself. That's something he'll say to folks. Instead of saying thank you so much, be safe, good riddance, he says just take care of yourself. And that really resonates with me too. I think I try to promote that as much as I can in my life.
That whole do unto others as you would do unto yourself is a dangerous thing, because if I treat myself like crap and don't take care of myself, I don't want to be treating other people the way I treat myself.
Amen. There's our first amen. So I'm right there with you.
So
I'm right there with you.
So if you think of your ideal of how you would love to care for someone else, and then could you care for yourself in the way that you would like to care for someone that you love?
If I talk to anybody the way I talk to me, it would be not good.
So
it would be not good. I'm working on that. I'm trying to take care of myself.
But yet you know how to do it with people that you love and care about.
So I must.
So it's not like you don't.
I'm working on it.
Me too. Every day.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Graham. Thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy man. I appreciate you setting aside a little time to come to my little apartment and share some advice and wisdom with us.
I'm glad I came. It was fun.
Me too. Yeah, anytime. You're welcome back anytime. We'll do weekly episodes if you want. We'll do whatever you want. But thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And we'll have you back soon. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invitation.
Bye, folks.
All right. Bye-bye.